British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good morning once again. I'm Gabe Liesi with BCIT's The Crow, coming at you just before lunch with more news at 11:30 a.m. Canada's Attorney General and Justice Minister Sean Fraser will meet with provincial officials in Victoria on Monday to discuss bail reform. Fraser will host a news conference with BC Premier David Eby and BC Attorney General Nikki Sharma at the legislature. They will discuss the federal government's Bail Reform and Sentencing Reform Act. The news conference, set to begin in about 30 minutes' time, will focus on the bill's changes for sex offenses and extortion. The act was announced last week and is due to strengthen bail and sentencing laws for repeat violent offenders. It will also introduce consecutive sentences for crimes like violent car thefts, extortion, and arson. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is defending his government's ad campaign that triggered U.S. President Donald Trump to end trade negotiations with Canada. The ad features former U.S. President Ronald Reagan warning that tariffs damage economies in the long run. Ford says he will never apologize for sticking up for Ontario jobs.
What we did, we generated a conversation that wasn't happening in the U.S. Now, every single local media, every large media, medium-sized media in the U.S. is talking about it. So is every governor, senator, and congressman and woman, not only nationally, but statewide.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says Ottawa and Washington were making headway on a deal on steel, aluminum, and energy before Trump halted talks. Nova Scotia's largest electric utility company says it has fallen months behind in paying contractors and suppliers because of a sophisticated cyber attack in March. Nova Scotia Power spokeswoman Jacqueline Foster apologized on behalf of the utility today, saying invoices are being paid but progress has been slow. Foster says dozens of additional staff have been brought in to speed up the payment process, which has involved extensive manual work and establishing workarounds to get the job done. She says all of the invoices should be paid before the end of the year, but she did not say how much money is owed. In September, the privately owned utility revealed that all of its ratepayers may have been affected by the cybersecurity breach. The federal government is putting millions of dollars into union training and foreign credential recognition to meet Canada's demand for skilled labor. Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu announced the new funding today ahead of the federal budget, which is expected to lay out major and long-lasting plans for infrastructure and home building. Hajdu was asked if the Liberals can execute on those plans without relying on foreign workers.
The hope is that we can have as much Canadian labor as possible, and unions expect us to do that. And we'll be working with the skilled trades unions, in particular the Canadian Building Trades Union, to make sure that Canadians are positioned first and foremost to take advantage of those jobs.
Hajdu made the announcement at an Ottawa long-term care center where she also unveiled a new tax credit for personal support workers. Canada is in danger of losing its international status as a measles-free country. Measles was officially eliminated across Canada in 1998, but an outbreak of the disease in the country is about to hit the one-year mark. More than 5,000 people in Canada caught measles last year, and 2 infants died in Ontario and Alberta. Experts say it's a result of fewer people receiving the MMR vaccine. The Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization will review Canada's measles status in November. Authorities have arrested 2 suspects in connection with the theft of crown jewels from Paris's Louvre Museum. The high-profile theft stunned the world. Officials announced the arrests on Sunday, a week after the daring heist. Investigators from a special police unit made the arrests. One suspect was caught at Paris's Charles de Gaulle airport while attempting to leave the country. The other was detained in a Paris suburb. Both men were French nationals and were known to police. It is suspected they were both trying to flee the country to Africa, one to Algeria and the other to Mali. The theft took less than 8 minutes, and the thieves made off with jewels valued at 88 million euros. The precious items still have not been recovered. There is a slight chance of showers in the next 30 minutes. The high is 10 today, and right now it is currently 8 degrees in Burnaby. Those are your news headlines to 11:35 a.m. I'm Gabe Liesi, and I'll be back with more at 1 p.m.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
The single biggest democratic institution in our society are unions, in terms of being able to come together and convene meetings where we're able to debate, discuss, and vote on, and then implement decisions that we've made.
For BCIT News, I'm Cohen Sassman.
And I'm Gabe Liesi. You're listening to the Picking a Scab podcast, where Cohen and I will peel back the layers of unions.
It's loud and historic. Outside many government offices across BC, thousands of workers are on strike. They're members of the BCGEU, one of the province's largest unions. Behind every picket line is a bigger story. What do unions really mean for workers today?
Some say unions are the backbone of workers' rights, Cohen. Others say they're outdated and even restrictive. Today, we're going to be exploring what unions mean in 2025 through two stories. One worker, a truck driver named Gordon Davidson, and a Capilano University student, Nico Williamson, who decided enough was enough.
So we recently back in March, we got certified by the Labor Relations Board to join the Move Up Union. And this month we got a transition agreement finalized, and we will be getting our wage increase at the end of the month, hopefully. Overall, it's been like a 3-year process.
It was the result of years of quiet organizing and a realization that student workers were being left out.
And it just became very clear that we were not considered within it, and we either fall through the cracks or fill the cracks.
For many, this wasn't just about fairness, it was also about survival.
There were several student employees that were thinking about quitting their jobs because they couldn't afford to survive on the wage and hours that they were getting at CapU. So this means that they can continue working the jobs they like without needing to starve or miss rent.
Many would have backed down in the face of adversity, Cohen, and the university did indeed try to complicate the process, but Nico and her team refused to back down.
Basically, they added 40 employees to the list that they never intended on allowing to unionize in order to make the list bigger, hoping that we fail, but we didn't. We grinded, we got those extra cards signed, resubmitted before the deadline.
And while Nico was building a union from scratch, Gordon Davidson was coming back to one after seeing both sides of the trucking industry.
Came from a union company to bulk fuel hauling, which was non-union, and now to these guys, which are union.
For Gordon, that contract isn't just paper, it's actual protection.
So with a union, there's those protections where, if those things are asked of you, you say no, and there's weight behind that. So I left the union job that I was at to work at this bulk fuel haul, because I was promised that I would guaranteed $90,000 a year to go up from there, to earn $100,000+ a year. When I looked at what I earned, I was closer to 74, right? And I did at a point go in and talk to the terminal manager. I was like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I was promised. And what I got told is you have to take this extra load or whatever. And that's, where you start getting pushed in your hours of service.
In fact, Cohen, he's not looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. He realizes that unions aren't perfect, but says he'd still rather have one than not.
They negotiate 2, 3, 5-year contracts, and it's fixed. So if things happen within those 5 years, and like wages in the industry kind of go up beyond what the contract does, then you don't kind of catch up with that till it comes to renegotiating the contract.
To understand the bigger picture, we reached out to Paul Finch, president of the BCGEU, the union leading the strike we heard at the top of this episode.
The number one purpose why we exist is to create a democratic organization to represent the interests of working people. And the number two reason we exist, of course, is to secure the best possible wages and benefits for our members.
Finch made it clear and said that unions are still crucial in a day and age where inflation has outpaced wages.
Unions are critical at a base level to ensure that people are paid fairly for the work they do. Yep. But more importantly than that, on top of that, we need to be able to make collective decisions in our society on a democratic basis, and that's not a simple thing.
For Nico, a union meant a living wage and a voice. For Gordon, it meant protection from unsafe demands. And for Paul Finch, it's about democracy itself.
Interestingly enough, though, Cohen, as much as union membership has gone down overall, union membership in the public sector has actually gone up since the late 1990s. It was at 74.5% roughly in 1997 in the public sector, and it's jumped to 76.7% 2 years ago.
And do you have any numbers on the private sector? Does the private sector, is it going up or down?
It's interesting. The private sector is actually going down. It's going in the exact opposite way. It was 21%, just over 21% in 1997, and in 2023 it fell to just above 15%.
So it sounds like government workers, they are becoming more unionized as time goes on, but private workers, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, and in fact, I spoke with a professor from SFU, Dr. Mark Lear, who can give context as to why this is.
My name is Mark Lear. I'm a historian, and my specialty is the study of labor and left-wing movements. The case that the law has been changed in BC and in other provinces, and federal law has changed to actually make it more difficult to form unions than it was in the 1970s. So it's also more difficult now to negotiate that first collective agreement.
It was very interesting because it's one of the things that he said was union membership has gone down overall, and yet people are still very willing to strike and are still very willing to fight for what they feel is what they feel they are owed, despite the fact that the BC government has actually made it more difficult, legally speaking, to strike and eventually form a union.
And have you noticed that there's any dangers to possibly signing a union card?
That's one of the things that I spoke about with Nico, and I was expecting there to be more hesitancy amongst the students at the university, but they were more than willing to sign union cards and put their names out there, and were just willing to fight for what they believed in. And I think that's one of the reasons why the union drive was so successful, really.
It sounds like if you don't need a union, you don't think about it, but if you need a union, it's life or death.
This episode was produced by Cohen Sassaman and Gabe Liesi from BCIT Radio. Special thanks to Nico Williamson, Gordon Davidson, Paul Finch, and Mark Lear.
For BCIT News, I'm Cohen Sassaman.
And I'm Gabe Liesi. Thank you for listening.
I really do think that, the unions are there to protect the workers, and I believe that companies should be unionized because they do take advantage of employees.